All right, so today we're diving into the world of Tai Chi.
Okay.
But we're going deeper than just the moves, you know? We're
Hmm.
talking about the people, the philosophies, the good stuff.
Right.
And we've got this awesome interview with Doug Corpolongo to guide us.
Oh, yeah. He's great. Doug's the best.
You want to talk right down to earth in a language that everybody here can easily understand.
The chance of your being hurt by an atomic bomb is slight.
You gotta get out the love you need with your chosen family. Sometimes you find yourself all alone with nothing in this world but you within your health. Sometimes you have to build your own home and fill it with the love you need yourself. You gotta get the love you need with your chosen family. In this life, one thing is true. You gotta deal with what it gives you. You can't help what you get, but you're the only one can do it for you. You gotta get the love you need with your chosen family. My friends around the world come from different mothers. I born the choice, making my sisters and brothers. You gotta get the love you need with your chosen family. The blood of our covenant is thicker than the thin water of the womb. The eternal mystic tie unites us half the two. You gotta get the love you need with your chosen family. They're my chosen family. The new Zoo Crew Review. They're my chosen family. The Lost Tribe is coming for you. You gotta get the love you need with your chosen family. Build on that ground you stand with your 2 feet in hand. Create peace and tranquility with your chosen family. You gotta get the love you need with your chosen family. You gotta get the love you need with your chosen family.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Built Different, the People of Taijiquan, where we follow the energy to find out what makes some people put in the work that others don't even know exists. Please take a moment right now to show your appreciation for our guests' time and courage by hitting like and subscribe, follow, notify, remind me, I pledge eternal loyalty, or whatever your preferred platform offers. Thank you.
Hi, everybody. I'm Jason with Atomic Tai Chi, and welcome to Built Different, the People of Tai Chi. My guest today is Doug Corpolingo. Doug is a longtime practitioner of Tai Chi and a teacher, and I just lost my notes that I just had up with him. Would you like to introduce yourself, Doug? Will I try to get myself back under control here?
Okay. Well, hi there, guys. I'm Doug. I teach Tai Chi in Albuquerque, New Mexico. I've been doing internal martial arts since 1979. And let's see, I'm a student Grandmaster Henry Luke. I also studied with Kevin Coogan and studied with John Zhang, and have been, I've been teaching since 1990. And
Okay.
I started by teaching senior citizens Tai Chi at a senior center in 1990. I had really long hair, and I sat there and I would play with my hair while talking to the students because I was so self-conscious. And so over that time, I got over it. And, for a while I was camera shy, but you can see I'm not so much anymore.
Yeah.
So
Well,
you
that's
just
cool.
kind of get used to it.
Yeah. Okay. So, and I think I was made aware of you through Matt, actually, Matt Parson, who was my first guest on the show. And he just had mentioned that, he'd studied the Guang Ping form, and you were learning that, but not, he wasn't learning from you, but I guess you're his
Well,
kung fu uncle.
I I had taught him at first, but I think he's studying with my Kung Fu brother, Matt Peterson, now in
Okay.
Sacramento.
Yeah.
Or actually in the hills outside of Sacramento, but I think he's
Okay.
like, Shingle Springs or something, or Folsom or one of those places out there east of.
Yeah, and you're in Albuquerque, right?
Yeah, I'm in
Actually,
Albuquerque.
I don't think I've ever been that. Like, I drove pat through it as a like New Mexico as a kid on our way out to California, but that's about all I have.
Yeah,
You know,
you and Bugs Bunny.
yeah, right. I know that's a great. Took a left turn to Albuquerque. Well, I don't know if I actually hit Albuquerque itself. I know we had like the Painted Desert and like basically, I guess that I-10 route all the way out to California.
Yeah,
So I don't know if that's going to go right through there or not, but it's beautiful country out there. The desert and
yeah,
whatnot. A bit unique.
yeah.
Um,
I got here in '74 when I got out of the army, and so I've been here ever since. But I'm originally from California, so I go back to California a lot. My son lives there. I have two sisters there, and so that's where I grew up.
okay, yeah, it sounds pretty like I was in Nevada for a little while. And I know like one of the guys I don't know, in the little strip mall that we were working at, he was like an alternative health sort of dude and had a tea thing. And I guess he was working with some of the natives out there in New Mexico. So he'd go out there and actually I think he was getting popcorn from them. And then,
Yeah,
yeah, and he was taking it out and he'd pop the popcorn and sell the popcorn back in Vegas, which was like, I didn't realize that was such a huge market, but it was pretty good stuff. Anyhow, well, welcome to the show. Gosh, I'm just not very well prepared today. It's been, like I said, I tried to put a very aggressive timeline on myself to do one a week, and it just, man, this last one like wiped me out. So we're just gonna go with it here. And what I wanted to talk about was, one of the things that struck me about you in particular in the martial arts world, um, similar to myself, is like you're very outspoken with your political views, and I know a lot of people are.
yeah,
A
but
lot of,
not in my class.
well, you're not in class, but just in general, a lot of
Yeah,
people like.
so if you go to my Facebook page, you can tell I'm slightly to the left of Bernie Sanders. But if you go to my class, I try to discourage political discussions because I want everybody to feel comfortable there, whether they agree with me or not. And since Tai Chi is good for your health, you want people to feel welcome, because you're trying to help them. So I don't care if I agree with you. I'll still want to work with you. We're all human beings.
Yeah.
So
And, of course, if you're a little bit better balanced, emotionally speaking, maybe it'll change your political views too, right? So,
yeah,
just kidding for the other
yeah,
folks that disagree with me, that they're obviously mentally imbalanced. But yeah, that's something that my Alex Dong, we have regular uh teacher classes, where we starts where, yeah, he tells us about like his teaching philosophy and how to how to lead classes, compose them, and do's and don'ts and things of that nature. And that's something that he brought up in the most recent one, is like, we should, I guess, especially getting into this time of year with the election like 4 weeks away, and it's just getting more contentious out there to avoid. But we are, of course, living in a political society, so it's going to come up in our day to day.
mhm.
Um, Gosh, where am I supposed to go with that? One of the things that kind of motivated me to be more, I guess, public, was that I was seeing some other folks who were, sort of on the other side of the fence, so to speak,
Mhm.
with regard to issues like human dignity and whatnot, that were just kind of being loud about out there. Have you ever run into that sort of stuff out there in the?
Oh yeah, yeah. You run into it. I have some students who are very, very conservative, and like a couple students who teach down in Texas, which Texas in and of itself is pretty conservative.
Yeah.
Outside of Austin, Austin's kind of like Austin and Houston are kind of like islands in Texas. Where the rest of Texas is fairly conservative. Austin and Houston are kind of progressive. So you know, you go into Dallas or Fort Worth or something, it's fairly conservative there, So, and I have students who are there who are pretty conservative, and we just talk about Tai Chi. We just don't talk about who we're going to vote for.
Yeah, it's gotten very I don't know, I guess it's always been a little bit strange in this country, but it just seems like it's gotten very well, I don't know, maybe as we're getting older, you pay more attention to it and you see things a little bit differently, but it seems like it's getting more and more divisive and toxic and contentious every year in this country. Um,
Yeah. Yeah, I blame some of that on the 24-hour news cycle and also the division where, I can watch a TV program where everything they publish, I'm going to agree with, and the people on the other side can do the same thing. And so um, you don't get the opposing point of view. Like when I was growing up, whenever somebody would do an editorial, they were required to have the opposing view, so they had to present both sides of the argument. So if you were a viewer, you got to hear both sides of the argument. And then the news was basically the news. Seems like nowadays with the 24-hour news cycle, a lot of the news is editorial, so you don't get the news. I get an email, it's called 1440, which is only news. And before I do anything, I read that. And also, before I go teach a class, I don't listen to the news. I have a Sirius XM, so I listen to the blues station. I'm a big blues fan. That, because if I listen to the news before going to teach, I'm not in the right mindset to teach. Yeah, I'm more,
yeah, that makes sense. I've noticed that to myself, how you prime yourself going into the situation is going to have a lot to do with your performance and your mindset, actually in it. And
yeah,
like these interviews, like, oh, I find myself, if I'm not ready to go at go time, I'm scrambling to get done. Then I come into it and I got all this intense, nervous energy. I'm like, keyed up and whatnot. I want to try and like, make sure I'm ready beforehand so I could settle down and have a nice, settled, calm chi, coming into
yeah,
things.
yeah.
And
Yeah,
yeah. And same thing with class too, that like I like to I'm still just doing the Zoom classes. I'm not doing in-person classes yet, though. I think a Taekwondo school up the road folded. So I'm gonna see if I can't get into that space. But
oh, cool.
yeah, I mean, cool. But I'm sorry for your luck. Call me Mr.
Yeah.
Lopez if you're out there. But
Well, one of the advices I give to my students a lot
yeah,
when they go off to teach, first off, I walk up and shake their hand, and say, congratulations, don't quit your day job.
yeah, right.
And the other thing I say is, don't get a brick and mortar school. Teach out of
Yeah,
community centers, teach out of churches, but the brick and mortar school, the second you have a business, it becomes a real hard. I had a brick and mortar school from 1990 until just about 2000.
yeah,
And I'm really grateful that I closed it.
yeah. It's like just a big drain, essentially, like maintaining it, right?
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah, the thing is that I get, I teach for the city of Albuquerque. So I don't have to worry about money. I just show up, the city sends me a check once a month,
oh, that's great. Yeah.
so I do that. And I teach 3 classes a day, uh, 5 days a week, and then one on Saturday. And I'm just happy as can be.
Yeah. And how are you doing
No
after
headaches,
your
don't have to worry about taxes, don't have to worry about,
oh, nice.
anything. Just show up and teach.
Yeah, no one don't have to worry about insurance, don't have to worry about tax, any of that kind of stuff?
Well, I have insurance, but I just have I get my insurance through a place called Next, and my insurance is like $20 a month, so, and it covers me to like $1.5 million.
Okay.
And I don't list myself as a martial arts instructor. I'm under the yoga instructor thing, and they told me I could do that. So
Okay.
it's a bit of a stretch, yoga stretch, but it's,
I see what you did there. No. Well, there's some people that, and I guess I'd count myself among them, that kind of considers Tai Chi a form of yoga. If you look at like the real,
yeah.
yeah, sort
Well,
of like
it is legitimately a form of Qigong. You
yeah,
know, it's basically a form of Qigong with self-defense applications.
oh
You
heck
know,
yeah,
You
And so
know,
do you
so
get much chance to get into that in your classes for the city or?
with the self-defense,
Yeah.
I teach basically when I'm teaching Tai Chi, I always teach the self-defense applications. I explain to my students, especially the ones who are not interested in the self-defense, that while Tai Chi is a martial art and it has self-defense applications, 90% of the people who are doing it for health and meditation or to maintain their balance or whatever. But we explain the self-defense applications because then you understand the movement. And when
Yeah.
you understand the movement, you're more likely to do it correctly. And Tai Chi, like any exercise, when you do it correctly, you increase the benefit of the exercise and decrease the risk of injury.
Oh yeah.
So explaining that, this is a deflection and a grab is much easier than saying, feel at one with the universe,
Do the
you know.
spiral arm. No.
Yeah, and I'm always like, the thing is, you don't have to try to feel at one with the universe because whatever you're feeling like at the moment is what it's like to feel like to be at one with the universe because you are at one with the universe. So whatever you're feeling, that's what it feels like to be at one with the universe. So,
Yeah, there's one thing you can't depart from the Tao, it's like it's what you're
yeah,
just you're doing is just even if you're opposing it, that's just part of it, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. You can either swim with the stream or swim against it. It's
Yeah. Yeah, and it's usually a better idea to swim with it, right?
yeah.
But yeah, that's I just went blank. I had something in mind to talk about, and then I just went blank there. But no, that's so with the class, I know that are you teaching mainly the Guanping stuff, or what is it that you're teaching out there?
Well, I primarily teach Yang style.
Okay.
So I teach Guanping as more of an advanced set. It
Okay.
has some, first off, Yang style is more accessible. One of the reasons why I like to do that is because you can learn Yang style from me or from you and go anywhere in the world and find another person teaching Yang style. And you can pretty much at this point go to a little town in Colombia and find somebody teaching Yang style. You can't do that with Guanping. You know what I mean? The other thing is Yang style is more accessible in that it is easier to do. The stances are not as deep, and there's Guanping is also an interesting style in that it's kind of like halfway between Chen and Yang, and it
Okay.
has, from my perspective, from seeing it. Now, this could be because of who my teacher is, because my teacher was Henry Luke, who also did Xingyi and Bagua. And so to me, it feels like it has a lot of Xingyi and Bagua influence in it.
Okay.
And so when I'm teaching Yang style, before I'll teach somebody Xingyi or Bagua, I'll insist that they learn Guanping because it is a really nice branch off between Yang style and Xingyi. The stances in Guanping more resemble Xingyi than they resemble Yang style. Yang style, your weight distribution is 70-30 primarily, for 70 if you're in Gongbu or a front stance, primarily your weight is primarily 70% in the front leg and 30% in the back, more or less, you know what I mean? But in Guanping, it's more set back.
Oh.
It's more like there's more weight. It's more like 40% in the back leg and 60% in the front. So it resembles more like a Xingyi front stance than a Yang style front stance. I just think Yang style is also easier to learn.
Yeah,
So
it seems more it is more accessible. The Dong family generally starts people with Yang or Yang derivative forms, and they have
yeah,
the How and the family form like later on is more advanced stuff.
yeah.
Some
Well, the
sort of
thing
thing.
is that someone could take Yang style from me and move to Florida and take Yang style from you, and while we might do some of the postures a little differently, they will recognize them. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, I
You
found
know,
like I initially, I learned as I was saying, TT Leong's 150 posture form.
yeah,
And then I was able to, when I started looking at the Dong family stuff, it's more kind of old school than the Chin Man Ching stuff. So, but I was able to
yeah,
follow like 98% of it. Just they do a few things different At least for the externally, they do a lot. There's a lot more like once you get into it, that's more internal. But as far as like just dropping into a class and follow along with the form, there's just a couple places where you're like, huh, and then the rest of it's pretty straightforward on there.
Yeah.
And that's oh, go ahead.
Yeah, the thing I like about the Dong style, I've never gotten to learn it, was I've been interested in their fast form. You know what I mean? Because it's
Yeah.
always been, I do Chung Chang's, they call it Chong style Tai Chi, but it's basically Yang style Tai Chi. Move for move, it follows the Yang style long form, but does it a little differently.
Okay.
And it moves a little quicker. And it moves at a not a fast pace, but a moderate pace. And Todung Chang was a very famous Swai Jiao master. So you get a lot of take of what a Swai Jiao person would see in Yang style Tai Chi.
Oh, is that the John Wong? Is that John
John
Wong's
Long
master?
does it. Yeah,
Okay,
John
yeah.
Long does it. David Pickens
Dave
does
Pickens.
it.
Okay, yeah, okay.
Yeah, I had learned it from Dave Pickens. So
Okay. Yeah, that's very interesting. It's a very much more like directly sort of yeah, like you're saying, it's like, okay, this is what Shui Jiao, they're trying to they're doing Tai Chi. This is his idea of what, Tai Chi for Shui
yeah.
Jiao. And it's
Well,
very oh, go ahead.
what I noticed about it is it's a little less nuanced than mainstream Yang style, whatever you want to consider mainstream Yang style, and it does different angles. So, like when you do brush knee twist, rather than stepping through and doing the twist step, it steps at angles. So so you don't like some Yang styles will sit back and do the rocker step, and then some Yang style people will do the twist step by pulling back with their hip, and it doesn't do either of those. It just steps in an angle, and so it's a little more direct and a little less nuanced. So. And I was once told, and I actually enjoyed this, is that you do your more nuanced movements for your martial arts friends, and you do the more direct movements to save your ass in the parking lot.
Sure, yeah, I guess, it's yeah, it's all yeah, I mean, it's really, yeah, that's a good question. They're like, what when we talk about using these for self-defense, like, what is your opinion of self-defense? Like, what does that mean even,
Oh, well, I have a pretty strong opinion about self-defense.
Oh,
And to me, there's a difference between fighting and self-defense.
sure.
So in fighting, you have two people who have made an agreement. They may not realize they've made an agreement, but they've made an agreement. They've agreed to settle whatever their differences by injuring each other. And whoever injures the other person the most wins that debate, right? Whereas in self-defense, at least one of the people doesn't want to be there, and wants to get away. Therefore, your self-defense techniques are more designed to give you an opportunity to get away. So in fact, many times when I teach a self-defense class, at the very beginning of the class, I'll say, okay, well, I'm going to teach you the ultimate self-defense technique right now. And they say, okay, go. So I get in your best fighting stance. I get them up like this. And then I say, okay, now do what I do. And then I turn around and run. And so I always say running was the first self-defense technique designed, and all self-defense techniques are designed to give you an opportunity to do that. And so the idea behind it is that you're an unwilling participant in whatever the thing is. If you and your techniques are designed to allow you to get away. Now, if you happen to injure the other person in your effort to get away, that isn't because you wanted to injure them. That was because you needed to get away. And if they've got injured, that's the unfortunate consequences of their life choices. So,
yeah, right.
know,
Whatever point they were trying to
but
make was more important than their ability to get out of there uninjured.
Yeah. So basically, you're not interested in hurting them, but that's sometimes what happens when you have to defend yourself. Is sometimes the other person gets hurt. For me, I taught police defensive tactics back in the 90s. And I taught it for a company called Call Security, and this was out at the New Mexico State Fairgrounds. And police defensive tactics are what police are supposed to use when they're trying to, you notice I use the word supposed to use,
Yeah.
when they're trying to restrain somebody. And there's a thing that I learned in that, which was very important, and that's that in any kind of physical conflict, you have four potential outcomes. And those four potential outcomes start out with the most beneficial, which is nobody gets hurt. Neither you or your attacker get hurt. You're able to get away, right? So I always use that. Give me 3 steps. Give me 3 steps. Missed. Give me 2 steps. Door at the door. Right.
Right.
So you and your attacker get away. Everybody's fine. Nobody's hurt. And then the next one, which is not as ideal but acceptable, is your attacker gets hurt. You don't. Right. And then the last two, which are unacceptable, is you both get hurt, or you get hurt and your attacker doesn't. So those are your four potential outcomes in any potential physical outcome. So what you're ideally going for is that first one. And then if that doesn't work, then you settle for the second one. And by all costs, try and avoid the last two. So that's, and
Oh yeah, I definitely agree. I agree with that analysis. Definitely, that ideally nobody's getting hurt, and you're just going to convince whoever it is that's aggressing to, rethink their course of action.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's what Swanza was said. Sun Tzu, the art of war was, the pinnacle skill is to win without fighting. So, that's really the thing, is to, if you don't have to, don't hurt somebody. It's, if you can talk them out of it, if you can manage to push them and run away. In fact, the thing is if you push somebody, run away, if you want to run away, take somebody down and run away, you want to run behind them or toward their head. So if they're coming at you, you push and run in the opposite direction. That makes them turn around. That gives you a few extra steps to get away. And if you knock them down, if you take them down, you want to run past their head, because they have to get up and turn around. So the ideal, like I said, the ideal self-defense technique is to run. So the idea is to be able to give yourself a few extra steps that discourages them from chasing you. So.
Okay, I mean, that makes sense. Now this my headset might die on us. It's saying charge me.
Oh,
so
charge me.
Yeah. So hopefully it's gonna last a little bit longer here. But we figure it out. If I suddenly can't hear me, I'm gonna have to do a little magic here to make things work a little bit
Okay, yeah.
differently. But but yeah, that's all. I agree with that 100%. And I usually call it like consensual violence. That people they're agreeing to fight in some way, whether it's either their ego signing it up, or they're in some sort of promotion. Like they're involved with a formal fair fight, which that's my only thing. Is fair fights are for suckers is my mantra. If I want to get into a fight, like no, if it's a fight, then it's something that matters. So
well, fair fights only occur in the ring.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah. One of my instructors long ago said, if you pick up a trash can and hit somebody with it, that was good kung fu.
Oh yeah, definitely. There's no such thing as fair when it comes to defending your life or your loved ones,
your family or whatever. Yeah.
Have you ever had a student kind of go the other way with it and become like an aggressor or get in trouble for violence?
Well, one of the things that I've done is, because you can kind of feel that kind of a vibe from somebody when they come into class.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I've often done with somebody like that is I revert back to that old-fashioned traditional training, and I'll make them post for 6 months. And if they're still around after 6 months, they have almost always developed the patience in the character to be able to not abuse what I'm teaching them.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, but you can usually feel that vibe, that kind of thing. Yeah, I used to get that a lot, which was why I stopped doing police defensive tactics, because I used to get that a lot from the security guys that I was teaching us. Yeah, but how do you really mess somebody up? I'm like, well, we're not here to do that.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, that's something we were talking about in the last one, that the last discussion was how a lot of people that are untrained, they just have um, no tools for dealing with intense emotions and anger and frustration and things of that nature. And so they can, in some cases, be, 3 o'clock in the morning, the baby's crying, their wife's worn out and no help, they're stressed and they just snap, next thing you know, there's a police call coming through, um, and whatnot. And so that was one of the things that we decided is uh, good about the martial arts is like, as you're saying, stick it out for 6 months, maybe you're going to develop some sort of patience, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the thing is that actually for pretty much the first year or so, you're not going to really learn anything that's that scary or dangerous. It's just, and particularly when you're doing internal martial arts, Tai Chi, whatever, somebody who's interested in hurting somebody probably isn't going to show up in a Tai Chi class. They're just not. They're going to show up in a jujitsu class, an MMA class, perhaps a taekwondo or a karate class. But the likelihood of them showing up in a Tai Chi class is pretty slim. I mean, it's not that it's impossible, but it's not as likely as
Yeah.
the MMA school, you know.
Yeah, it doesn't really appeal to that sort of mindset, it seems like in most cases. I mean, maybe a Xingyi class. I don't know.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
like
Well, with my Xingyi, I require that people learn Tai Chi first anyway, because
oh,
yeah, the reason why is because a lot of people who do Xingyi, when they're doing Xingyi, they see the explosive movement and don't understand that it is still as relaxed and as soft as Tai Chi. It's just moving quickly and explosively. And you Tai Chi is much more efficient at teaching someone to be relaxed and connected in their movement than Xingyi is. Used to be, and Xingyi requires you to still be relaxed and connected in your movement. The same principles pretty much that apply to Tai Chi also apply to Xingyi and Bagua. So if you're, it's Tai Chi is, I think, a good foundation for any other internal art. So.
yeah, that was the way I approached them. I did, I don't even know how long, I lost track of time, but I did a few years of Tai Chi, and then there wasn't really a path in the school to like sparring or fighting with Tai Chi. So he recommended Xingyi. So I started taking Xingyi, and then, that was just great, scooting across the floor. But exactly as you're saying, the when you first get in there, you're just trying to like, like the way we do it, we jump forward, sort of the
Yeah,
choi
that lunge, yeah.
stuff. Yeah. And so it's like, you're focusing more on that part of it, and and that's, but you know what I'm saying, that you gotta, you gotta learn to find the softness and then have the power, the same amount of power, becoming soft instead of just trying to,
Yeah.
push everything out. And that's where it starts to get really interesting, I think,
Yeah, and you know from your experience that your Tai Chi helped you learn to be soft while doing that explosive movement.
Yeah.
It's like
Yeah,
people
and a
ask
lot of
me,
people go the other way with it though. They'll say that they want people to learn Xingyi first because it's more direct and gets the power, and then once they've got that base, then try and soften it in Tai Chi. So it's interesting you go the other way with it though. Yeah.
yeah. Well, basically, if you have if your body mechanics is correct, the power is there. You don't it's just basically, and I haven't seen many strikes from any martial art that are as powerful as an internal martial arts strike.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, the Xingyi is something else, Like I
yeah,
didn't see Bagua, like the Bagua I never saw like as being something that was focused on powerful strikes, at least not the way it was more about just like kind of, good, strong, strength, but not necessarily a powerful strike as like the main focus,
yeah,
Um, but the Xingyi, yeah, that's the whole body, like, nine joint harmony is what they call it within that tradition, and just kind of everything just coming out together. It
yeah,
really does, I think, go well with Tai Chi, especially depending on which tradition you're getting involved with in Tai Chi.
yeah.
Um, what is the Guangping? Is that like that's the original Yang family stuff, or is that?
Well, it all depends upon who you talk to, right? So
Yeah,
the Guanping people in and of themselves, right? say that it is the original form of Yang family Tai Chi. That's the story, and they're sticking to it.
Okay.
My take on it, because I've done research and I see no, what am I going to say? I see no evidence of that, really. And so my take on it is that it's an early version of Yang style. Before Yang Cheng Fu, the Yang family, members of the Yang family, many of them did different forms. You know what I mean? So Yang Cheng Fu, his brother Yang Shaho, did not do the same Tai Chi that Yang Cheng Fu did. You know, and they had different stuff. And the story I've heard is that Yang Cheng Fu took various aspects of various members of the families, their forms, and compiled it into the long form. You know, so that may or may not be true, you know. And like I've always said, we martial artists don't let a few historical facts get in the way of a good story. You know, so you know, it's
that seems to be the case.
yeah, you know. So my take on it is that it is an earlier version of Yang style, but not necessarily the family form, because Yang Zendo, when he was in Winchester, Virginia, for the Taste of China tournament, said that there was no other secret version of Yang style Tai Chi other than the 108, and that was him. And so that's kind of like from the horse's mouth, you know. So, but that doesn't mean there aren't other versions. You know what I mean? It's kind of like you look at the Da Lu sets, or you know, which is basically an advanced form of push hands, is that there's a few official versions that the Yang family does, but then like I know 24 different versions of Da Lu sets, you know, and so, and some of them get quite complex, but the Yang family wouldn't recognize them as being Yang family. You know what I mean? I always say there's a difference. There's Yang family Tai Chi, which is the Tai Chi that is being taught by whoever the current patriarch of the Yang family is, being practiced and taught by them. And then there's Yang style, which is the Tai Chi of any qualified teacher who can trace their lineage back to some member of the Yang family. You know, okay. So like Dung family Tai Chi is still Yang style Tai Chi. Chen Man Ching style Tai Chi is still Yang style Tai Chi. You know what I mean? And you know, it's still Yang style Tai Chi. And when you look at it, it still looks the same. You know, it's still, you know, if you and I and a Chin Man Ching stylist all did brush knee twist, our in postures would all pretty much look the same. You know, you might have one style which has got their hand up like this, and like Chin Man Ching who does the beautiful women's, but it's all
coming off the same basic thing there. I think the how influence is interesting in the dong side, and you know, as you get into it, like there's always like learning it and you know, trying to master a particular flavor. You hit the nuances and whatnot. But yeah, exactly as you're saying, like the surface level as far as for like, you know, what you're getting just like walking in and picking up is pretty much 99% the same. You know, there's not going to be a lot of differences when you get into that. Yeah. So what would you say is what brings people to your classes, like these new people that are coming in there? Like, what are they, you know, looking for?
Well, most of the people who are coming into my class, I have a lot of people who are like over 60 in my classes, and I would say the vast majority of them are looking to improve their balance. You know, there's been all this research and publication and stuff about Tai Chi being good for balance. So when I was younger and teaching, I had a larger degree of martial artists taking my classes. You know, I would have somebody say, you know, you need to relax. Why don't you go take Tai Chi from Doug? You know, but as of lately, I'm getting a lot of people being sent to me by their physical therapists or their geriatric doctors. And because I'm teaching for the city, they know about me. You know what I mean? So I'm my new students. I get some young students because I teach at one of the colleges here. But the vast majority of my students now are over 60 and looking to improve their balance or looking to use it kind of like physical therapy, which is why one of the things I say, yeah, I'm explaining to you the martial arts applications, but that's because I want you to do the movement correctly. I say, I don't want you to go jump in the cage matches next week. So
I'm ready, teach.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. It's so good for that. I mean, I read the research on, the improvements in balance and, bone density. I actually had some people in my first class, the race class. There was a woman who was taking some sort of, woman medication for late life hormone balance or
Yeah.
whatever. I'm not sure what it is, but it was supposedly she had to have like a bone density test before starting it, and then she took it and because it's supposed to like impair bone density. And I guess 6 months after she started, when they were expecting her bone density to be worse, they actually found that she had greater bone density than when she had started because the Tai Chi, I suppose, was what they had
Yeah, there's
signed
some
her off to.
research online that verifies that the Tai Chi is many times not only slows the progressive osteoporosis, but many times reverses it.
Yeah.
So that there's research online about that. That's really, that's the thing is that while it is a martial art, it is really good for people. And so.
Yeah, and how would you are you involved at all in the current trendiness of talking about fascia?
Well, have you seen Yang Ming's book about that?
No, no.
No, one of his books, he's got two books out called Advanced Tai Chi, but one of them is talking all about the fascia and its role in Tai Chi. He has a
Okay.
whole chapter
Is
on
it a newer one or
Hmm?
is it a newer one or?
It's actually an old one. I
Oh.
don't even know if it's still in print. You know what I mean? But
Oh, I've got quite a few of his books back there. I have to go and look at it, a couple versions of it. But yeah, it's just some things that I just wonder if you had any thoughts on that, on its role in that. I mean, if you'd like to share.
yeah, well, what the thing about first off, you have to think about functional strength, right? And it is the connective tissue and the fascia and the tendons and stuff which have more to do with functional strength than your muscle, right? And so Tai Chi specifically trains that. Basically, in fact, many times I do a demonstration. You've seen the Aikido where they do the unbendable arm thing. And many times I demonstrate that, and I explain to people when I'm demonstrating that Western exercise physiology says that a stretched muscle has more tensile strength than a flexed muscle. And the reason why that is because from our point of view, it's because the flexed muscle fills with chi, but you're also connecting the fascia, and there's that gentle stretch, which happens when you do pung, when you do the basic structure, when you're doing basic structure of Tai Chi, you have that gentle stretch throughout your entire form, and so that basically what happens is it has it stimulates the yin meridians and stretches and opens the yang meridians. I'm trying not to get too technical here.
Sure.
And so, but that is basically when we talk about the idea of the secret of effortless power. Misty, hush. Sorry. There's somebody coming here talking. You're my baby girl. Yes, you are. Then I have a little troublemaker here. So you probably heard her, but so that's Missy Hush. So that's the idea is that when you're doing that, what was I going to say? Oh yeah, when you're talking about that connective tissue, right? So a chimpanzee weighs slightly less than we do, right? And they actually have smaller muscles than we have, but they're way stronger than we are. And the reason why is they have stronger connective tissue. And that's the idea. And that's what Tai Chi is doing, is it's training the connective tissue, which is what is responsible for functional strength. We're not trying to look buff. We're trying to develop functional strengths. We're trying to make our life better. We're trying to get stronger and healthier. We're not trying to show off to the babes. So that's the idea. Can you still hear me? Okay, I understand. We'll hold on for a minute. I don't know if I'm still being recorded. I'll continue to chat. So that's the idea. I'm watching you. I saw the dog tail wag in the background there.
Dun, 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 dun. Hey, I'm back.
Yeah.
All right.
There we go. Yeah. So I don't know how much of this I was saying as you were going dead got on the camera, but on the recording, but that's the idea. Is chimpanzees have more functional strength than we do because of that more connective tissue, stronger connective tissue, stronger fascia, stronger tendons, and according to Yang Junming, that fascia is one of the ways is through the fascia is where the meridians run, and that's where you're going to enhance the chi flow. It's not easy being cheesy, but
yeah, I think they call him Jing Lu.
Yeah.
Where it's like where the meridians and the fascia lines, like the bands of fascia in the body.
Yeah.
All right. And that's interesting. Like I was looking at that, like the bands, if you look at like your 5 elements of Xing Yi, like they kind of correspond to like the way those lines of fascia whatnot are in the body. So that
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's very H. Look it on there. Yeah, but you were talking about the strength. That's another thing that I was looking at research wise, that there are basically two ways to get stronger. And both of them involve recruiting more muscle, but one of them is hypertrophy, where the cross section of muscle gets bigger, right?
Yeah.
Muscle gets bigger, and the other is neurologically, where you incorporate more muscles into that single movement.
Yeah.
And so that's exactly like you're saying, like that with the I think we're doing that with fascia and connective tissue, or just what was interesting when I was looking at this research is said that the hypertrophy is more like what men, when they get stronger, they're gonna have hypertrophy, whereas like adolescents and women, they tend to get gains through neurological strength gains, and
Yeah.
Which is just fascinating to me. Like farmer strength.
Yeah. Well, basically, I'm interested in functional strength. I'm 70 years old, so I'm not going to impress any babes. So.
Are you kidding? Like everybody else your age is dead. That's already impressive enough. No.
Yeah. But it's that sort of thing. I worked as a bouncer for several nightclubs over several years. And it was that idea of using functional strength, using the entire body moving and connected, which helped me. One of my claims to fame was during that time was that I never injured anybody and never got injured. I didn't use the word hurt.
Yeah, because injured is worse, isn't it? Injured is like you have to recover from an injury, whereas hurt is just I'll walk it off. Right?
Yeah. Basically, the difference of you use some chin-na to restrain somebody, and as long as and this is where push hands comes in, because when you're doing chin-na with somebody, especially when you're doing it in a nightclub where someone's wrestling with you, you have to be able to follow their movement without forcing stuff if you don't want to hurt them.
Yeah.
So the push hands does that, because they will end up telling you what their favorite joint lock is. Oh yeah, I like that one. I don't know how you do. But that's basically what happens is you follow them until they put themselves in a position to be restrained. And it's that not forcing it and that following them, and then using basically the your own connective tissue to hold them there so that you're not struggling with them. And if you're trying to use the belly of the muscle flexing, basically what happens is when you talk about nerves carrying messages to and from the brain, they carry messages to from the brain, they carry messages from the brain. If I'm busy using my muscle my nerves are carrying messages from the brain. If I'm relaxed and using the connective tissue, my brain is now receiving messages from what this other guy is doing, and I'm able to respond in kind without hurting him.
Yeah, that's actually a great way of putting it. Actually, that I hadn't really yeah, that's a great way of putting it there. That receiving messages from them about what they're doing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really like that. That's yeah, I did some security work myself, and I yeah, I definitely agree 100% with what you're saying there. That people, you know, one example, I was working a show, and one of my no, two of my coworkers were having trouble with this guy who was just some dude in his early 20s, drunk and just like squirrely and wild, just flailing all over the place, right? And so just, you know, you get hands on him and like, okay, what does he want to do? He wants to go where? Wants to go to the floor. Like, okay, we'll put him on the floor. And, you know, instead of just letting him lay there, I put him on the floor uncomfortably to where he wants to get back up again. And just, you know, whatever you do, you just give him enough to make him regret it. But, you know, I got a good handle on him. I'm like, okay, well, here you go. You know, got him under control, and this is what you want to do. And handed him over to like 4 cops, right? And then I walked off, and I heard a commotion, and I look back, and there's like one cop holding him, and he's got his legs up, and he's kicking another one in the face, and like it's just this pandemonium back there. I'm like, guys, what are you doing over here? You know, like, but just the idea is like that if you know how you want to approach the situation, because the one I always talk about is like if all you know is Muay Thai, and you're like, oh well, you know, go get some go get a job bouncing or whatever, then okay, well, somebody acts up, you're just going to throw some elbows and knock them out. But if you're dealing with people of means and money that might just be in a bad space because they're drunk or in a bad mood, you know, that's a lawsuit or jail time that you're going to be looking at.
Yeah, well, that's the thing, is you're not looking to get yourself or your boss sued.
Yeah,
You know?
exactly.
And the other thing is that you're just trying to control somebody. You probably don't know. You probably saw the thing I posted online. I was at a Walgreens, Carlisle and Lomas here in Albuquerque, on Monday night, just this last Monday, and this guy had stolen some donuts, and one of the female employee was telling him he couldn't leave without putting the donuts back. So he tackled her, and he was grabbing her, and I was standing maybe 10, 12 feet away. And I saw this, and I said, well, I can't let that happen. Well, I walk with a cane now these days because I was in the hospital for 3 months because of a staph infection in my knee. But so I put down my cane, and then I just simply restrained him and took him down. But what I did was simply, since he was trying to pull her down, I helped him down. You know, I just walked up, I put the cane down, and I told her, I says, listen, I got this. And so I just kind of like did a little pluck on his shoulder, on his elbow there, just kind of reached up. And then as I did, I just transitioned that into basically pull down, you know, basically from like when you do the pull down in lift hands. I just did that, and then just helped him to the floor, and then just kind of held him there. The grueling part was I had to hold him there for 40 minutes till the cops got there. Oh, and the thing was, I kept telling the guy who was calling cops, because when I took him down and when she was trying wrestling with, he was stealing donuts. So there was donuts all over the floor. I was like, well, tell him we got donuts. So, you know, so basically that's, you know, that's basically what's going on. But that was the whole idea, was I was helping him do what he was trying to do, and then putting it into a place where he didn't exactly like it, you know. And then he was like complaining that he was uncomfortable. And I says, well, if you stop struggling, this will get a little more comfortable, you know. So that was, you know.
I find it, what I always found in those like situations where there's struggle and I'm trying to get somebody to go somewhere, and they're trying to come at me or go away from me. It's always like in the security sort of context, is that I always wind up in the same situation where I've got like my, you know, my left hand is like on their right shoulder, and my, or like in that upper half of the arm here. And then my right hand is on the wrist. Like just every single time, just like, and just winds up in there like automatically, like somehow, you know.
Yeah, there's
walk them out, you use your Bagua footwork, you walk them out, you throw them on the sidewalk, and like, oh yeah, pussy, you know, and all that.
Yeah, there's kind of like there's kind of like four China movements that I use consistently. And the first one is basically that arm bar, and then basically a wrist compression. then a chicken wing, and then a backward compression going backwards. So I'm taking them over. But those are the four, and those rarely do I have to use anything besides those four. You know, occasionally a wrist extension. You know what I mean? But it's always just a matter of whichever way they're going. If I'm trying to do an arm bar, which may involve their shoulder or may involve their elbow, they'll start to pull back, and they'll put themselves in a wrist compression for me. Thinking
it's so weird how that happens.
Yeah.
But
I'm just like, oh, well, thank you very much. You know.
And something else to kind of go back, and I know I kind of jump around a little bit, but you were like the fact that you jumped in the middle of that situation at the donut shop. I think, we don't, some of us are different, right? Like some of us are just going to do that. We don't even think about it. We see a situation like that and we're going to do it. But I've seen, videos, like surveillance videos of, for example, there was a woman at a gas station. Like there's a guy just sitting there gassing up his truck, and this woman is like running away from her boyfriend, screaming, "Help me, help me, help me." And her boyfriend just comes up and like, "Oh, I got her." And the dude's just sitting there, "Ah, yeah, women, And there's all these women hopping on the thread saying like, in these situations, I've been there and I've asked for help from other men and they've just ignored me. And usually it's another woman who gets involved and keeps, to diffuse the situation. So yeah. But your thoughts on that, or?
Yeah, it's kind of a strange thing that that happens. In fact, when I had this guy down on the floor, because this was a Walgreens, right? And I had him on the floor and he was wrestling around. I had people just kind of walking past me, looking at me like, well, that's interesting. And then going on and with their shopping, there wasn't anybody who was like even asking if either he or I were okay, or anything, It was kind of, when the cops finally did show up, they thanked me, and I gave him they handcuffed him before they would even let him up, and then I helped them get him to his feet. But they thanked me and then gave the lady a lecture for trying to interfere because she could have got hurt, which I completely understood. It's but that's the thing is, that people don't they don't want to get involved. They don't want to, they there's too much hesitancy to get involved. You might get hurt, or you might get sued, or there's too much stuff, Yeah,
if you hesitate, you basically, put the impulse to death, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I guess I've been in those situations too, where, staying at this veterans home and down in Cocoa, off of Peachtree, which you don't really know Cocoa. For some reason, I was thinking you were local, but it's, it's pretty rough, but it's basically like veterans who had a dual diagnosis of some sort, like substance abuse and depression or whatever, but they were homeless. There was like a supportive housing for 2 years. And there was like programs they had to go to. But anyhow, like 11 o'clock at night one night, I hear like a commotion out in the parking lot, and you got one old dude shouting racial epithets at this other dude who's in the place. And like, we're in a kind of neighborhood where that sort of thing is not really a good idea. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like somebody, and so like at 11 o'clock in the morning, I just like went down there and like I got in the middle of this fight in the middle of the parking lot. And I'm like, afterwards, I'm like, why the hell did I get in the middle of this fight in the middle of a parking lot at 11 o'clock at night? And it's just one of those things that like some people are just going to jump in the middle and some people are just going to walk past. And
yeah, I think it's an instinctive. It's however you're hardwired,
Yeah.
But I have never, when I've seen that kind of a situation, not gotten involved, and I don't know if it's because I worked so long being a bouncer or what it was, but I just instinctively get involved,
Or
Now,
what
as
drew
I'm
you to that
getting
work?
older, that may not be a good idea, but
Well, what drew you to that line of work?
huh?
What drew you to that line of work? The security stuff.
Yeah, well, I did. I worked for different clubs, and I worked as I guess to say, as a bouncer, and a couple of them were pretty rough.
Well, I mean,
like
what drew you what drew you into that line of work? Like what
because it was an easy job to get, being a martial artist.
Okay. Well, there you go, right? Yeah.
It was like it is would just say it's more fun than sitting in an assembly line. You know,
Well, yeah.
It's more interesting. And besides, I got to sit lots of times, get to sit by the dance floor and watch the girls dance, which was great. you know, you know.
Yeah, I liked it because like it was it was a chance to be in the club and see what was going on, but like I didn't necessarily have to participate. Like I didn't have to drink, I didn't have to act a certain way. Like I had an excuse to sit back and look, which is why I wouldn't
Yeah,
do anything, right? You know?
yeah,
But it was
yeah,
good.
exactly.
Yeah. And but yeah, it's a different sort of outlook on things, definitely. But yeah, why did you start doing martial arts then? Like let's go back even further.
Oh, well, I started first martial arts class I was 15. And I grew up in foster homes. I come from a family, my birth family is they basically took the fun out of dysfunctional. And and so the state of California took me and put me in foster homes. My social worker, they call them case managers now, but back then it was social workers. And my foster parents decided that I needed some discipline, so they put me in a martial arts class. They had no idea they were choosing my life occupation, but they were. And so I did that for a while. I backed out for a while. And then in 1979, I got involved again, and I've been involved ever since, so.
I was 3 years old.
Hmm?
I was 3 years old in 1979.
Yeah. So I was first involved in 1971. So.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, it was. I guess it was big back then. I always wanted to as a kid, but like we just never, there was never funds. There was never money for it. So I didn't really get started until I was in my 20s or late 20s, actually. I guess because it's about a little bit about 20 something years now, and I'm in my late 40s. So yeah, gosh, and it just kept you going. I guess you found something you liked in it, huh? How long was it
Yeah.
before you were making a living at it?
I started teaching in 1990. I don't know if I would ever describe myself as having made a living at it. I have almost always had some other kind of a job. It's just like I like this one phrase that I know somebody who uses. I'm an artist, therefore I have a day gig. So that. So in
Yeah.
my case, because I was teaching during the day and stuff, I started working, at nightclubs as a bouncer, because you go to work at 9 o'clock at night and you get off at 2, and that leaves my day free to be cosmic, so.
Be cosmic. Yeah, I love that, man. That was when in Minneapolis. That was kind of my thing, and I was lucky enough to be, have a very sweet and generous woman that supported me while I, made $20 a night doing security and went to kung fu class during the day. So it was God bless them when you, right? But
Yeah, yeah.
Uh,
My career, I've been through 3 marriages.
yeah, that's I'm finishing up my third now.
Yeah,
But that was the only time I wasn't actually married to that woman. It was just she was a fiance, and I mean, I don't know. I'm not trying to justify myself or whatever, but whatever. We do our best.
yeah,
Yeah. And but yeah, so that's I really like talking to Matt and some of the other folks about sort of the family like atmosphere that you cultivate within the school, and your community is really and important to me. I think that's one of the things that I've been trying to talk to people about lately too, is how especially as we get older, as men, in our 40s and 50s, how we sort of get more isolated and
yeah,
tired and worn out, and like just all these people are out there just getting more and more isolated, and suicide is a huge concern for folks in
yeah,
our demographics.
yeah. It is a huge concern, especially among veterans,
Yeah.
But the thing is that my understanding of it is that Chinese martial arts is supposed to be family focused. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? That you look at the styles of Tai Chi and many other kung fu styles, they're family names. Yang style is after, is the Yang family. Chen style is the Chen, and while it's branched out from there, but like when you're saying you do Dong style, that's Dong family. You know what I
Oh
mean?
yeah,
Or
yeah.
and it's the same idea. It's family, and the term Sifu is part of that. Part of that word means father teacher. You know what I mean? So
Yeah. It's
it's
definitely it's kind of weird with them too, because like you've got like Alex's father, Dongzhen Chen, was out, teaching all over the place, and then he retired, and some of his students, he has been with them since, like longer than Alex has been around. And so like now he turned over, and they're now Alex's students, and or they've just been along watching him grow up alongside him, and whatnot. So it's very yeah, and actually that's something I'm looking at now. There's one of his father's students that teaches up in Cape Canaveral, who's retiring, and I'm talking to the place where he's teaching to take over his class in November. So that'll be exciting.
yeah.
But the family thing, just like the extended community and the family, and in the teachings and the classes, and then the greater, like the push hands community, and just the greater community at large. I mean, it's very it is a community.
Yeah,
And
and I think you find that more in Chinese martial arts, and specifically Tai Chi and the internal arts, than you do in like karate or Taekwondo, or I think when it comes to Chinese martial arts, there's this feeling. I mean, we got this term, my kung fu brother. You know what I
yeah,
mean? And there is this sense of we are a family, where there's more, I think, more of a real sense of community and family within Chinese martial arts that makes it attractive to me. You know what I mean? So I kind of like, while I didn't grow up with strong family connections, and I mean, I connected with my family. I know my sisters and stuff, but my real family for my heart is my martial arts family. So.
oh yeah, yeah, definitely get that. I feel I mean, I still talk to my family a lot, but I've got the cousins all over the place. I've got my mom and dad and sister and whatnot. But as far as for like, we're still family, right? We still are there for each other. But as far as for like people that are kind of on the same wavelength as me, that's definitely, it's coming out of the Tai Chi community more so than anywhere else.
Yeah, exactly.
Because it's just other people just don't. I mean, that's kind of like the whole point of this podcast. Built different. It's like we're just doing things a little bit different. It's like, why are we
Yeah,
going to go stand for half an hour in one place and not move? What's wrong with you?
yeah,
So, yeah,
yeah.
yeah. But yeah, that's so. Like, let's say that you've been teaching for a long time, been practicing a long time, practicing for over 30 years now, over 40 years. Geez, well, 1 second, 71. Yeah, I only want to go
But yeah,
pushing
I've been
50 years,
teaching
huh?
for, let's see, I started
50 something.
January of 1990. So this coming January, I've been teaching 35 years.
Okay.
So.
So what about like highs and lows? Has there anything ever been a time where something happened where you've just thought about like walking away from it all?
Well, early on, I had that thing because when you're a student, I think good teachers protect their students from the politics of martial arts, and then you go out and start teaching, and you get suddenly a full dose of that, and you're not expecting it, right? And you're like, I thought we were all brothers, all well met here. What's going on? And that almost made me walk away from it, but I stuck it out. Um, and there's some lessons I learned in the process of that whole thing of seeing the politics. And one of them is that pissing matches, nobody wins and everybody gets wet. Nobody wins and everybody smells bad. So I don't engage in political fights with people. It's just it doesn't do anybody any good. It's that's probably one of the lessons I grew out of. So I learned that very early in my career. So
Yeah, you gotta, I guess, pick your battles carefully. You know,
yeah,
uh, as far as that goes. And it is very toxic out there. Like you've got these. I mean, there's all kinds of toxicity you got from either direction.
yeah,
I mean, in my opinion, I mean, but there's a lot of there's a lot of good people out there in the community, obviously. But there are a lot of people that just for whatever reason, jealousy or insecurity, or maybe
yeah,
maybe they tried to find something in Tai Chi they weren't able to find, and so now they're, you know, determined to convince other people that it's not there. So I don't know. I don't want to speculate too much, but there's a bridge of assholes to navigate to get across.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. Yeah. The thing is that there's doesn't matter what you go into, you're going to find assholes. You know.
Everybody's got one.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
but then the other side of that too is like, yeah, you got folks like you and Dave and, you know, and Matt and everybody who are really out there, you know, looking out for each other, looking out for the students and doing the right thing and being inclusive. Because, you know, there is I saw like some sort of you know, like you know, not to get into politics, but you know, you saw it like with the skinhead movement in the UK, which was really like a mixed race sort of working class group. You saw it like in you know, Gamergate here in the States and some other things where you've got this sort of like fascist, like deliberate fascist infiltration of these interest groups, you know.
Yeah.
And even like lately there was some fitness movement or something. Oh, it was just like, you know, it comes back and forth because then it's like, oh, you guys think that fitness is fascist now, huh? What do you know? But that I think that it's important that there's people out there that are vocal, not necessarily being anti that, but just being pro the other options, the other values, you know, that
yeah. I like the one thing I've heard before is that idea, rather than being against something, be for something, you know. So rather than fighting whatever the current fascist movement is, you know, I'm for the progressive, inclusive, you know, and I promote that, you know, and less about being against something. You know, it's kind of like you know who Thich Nhat Hanh is, you know. So Thich Nhat Hanh, who's a very he's passed away now, but a very famous Buddhist monk, right? He was from Vietnam and was actually not liked by either side because he was a peace. He was very much for peace. So the South didn't like him because, you know, and the North didn't like him for the same reasons, basically. They came to America, and one of the things I liked when he talked about boycotts was he was like, I've actually used this line is, I don't boycott things because that's about anger. I support businesses whose values I respect and admire, but I don't boycott anything because that's about anger. You know, so that's what I try to do. I try to come from a place of basically a place of love rather than a place of anger. You know, so that's, you know.
Yeah, I like that. I think that, you know, personally, I feel like that's kind of like that love is, you know, love sort of like the thing that connects us, right? You know, the you know, the namaste, the divine in me, seeing the divine in you. That's through love. That's what, you know, that's the
Yeah.
concept, that stuff. What would you say, like, you know, the flip side of that? Where, you know, what moment or moments have you had where you're like, yeah, this is exactly, you know, what I was meant to do, and I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing with this, and I'm glad I did it. You know, where's that at?
That happens sometimes. Like I started out teaching senior citizens, like I said, and that would happen to me when I would have somebody come up and they would tell me that their doctor has said that their physical condition has gotten better. You know, that they've had improvements in health, and the only thing that they can figure out that's done that is their practice of the Tai Chi, and that's when I have felt like, yeah, this is why I'm doing this. This is what I should be doing, and you know, maybe I'm getting a little bit of points toward not going to hell.
Well, you know,
Yeah.
what is it? The hell is here now, right? Or hell is
Yeah,
I
but
suppose
you know,
that you guys.
but that's really the idea is that as a teacher, right? It's that feedback that you get from a student when they say something in their life is now better because of their practice, you know. And that's when you go, yes, this is what I should be doing, you know. The accolades and certificates and awards, I got them all over my living room, you know what I mean? But they don't mean as much to me as having that student who says my life is better because of this, you know. You know,
You in there, bud. These dogs are say hi. Say hi, Bruno. Oh,
Oh,
what do you want, some food or something? What's going on?
wants attention.
Yeah, there he does. Ah, you guys, you're not getting enough attention from each other over there? Huh?
So what is that, a border collie?
No, he is red-nosed pit, German Shepherd, and golden retriever. They told us like
Oh,
they were trying to breed the red-nosed pit mom, but then the dad
yeah,
was the Shepherd retriever mix, and he hopped the fence
yeah,
and got a piece there.
yeah. My dog Misty is her mama was a corgi, and then her daddy was whatever the hell jumped the fence.
Yeah.
So I can tell she's got a lot of terrier in her.
Yeah, this guy, he's real smart and real sweet and real tough, but he's just he's not mean at all. Got a mean bone in his body, you know?
That's nice.
Yeah, it's this other little dachshund though. This guy's a little jerk sometimes. He's real. I think he got my cat the other day. I can't prove it.
So sometime when I'm down in the Florida area, I'm gonna have to look you up, you know?
Yeah, hit me if you're anywhere in Florida. Hit me up and I can I can travel, man. I don't mind traveling for good Tai Chi. You know, I love doing push hands. Like that retreat is awesome. If you can ever get down for that. I don't know if you're like into doing too much push hands with your knee and whatnot anymore, but
Well, I'm still doing it.
yeah.
I'm just having to be careful, you know what I mean? So, and basically, one of the things about push hands, if it's done well, I don't have to worry so much about my knee. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
You know, if it gets into a wrestling match, I just kind of go, you guys have fun. You
Yeah,
know?
you just kind of surrender out of that, you know, and it takes it takes the power out of it. Well, I had you know, uh I ripped my ACL basically doing
Yeah.
jujitsu. And so for about 9 years, I was running around with no ACL on my right leg. And so for about 3 of those years, I was doing push hands every weekend down in Pease Park. And that's what finally got me to start doing it, because I kept, I'd recover or step or something, and then my knee would just fold. And
Yeah.
I just got to a point where I couldn't, no matter how good I was, eventually I just got to a point where the structure just wasn't there, you know.
Yeah.
But the Tai Chi, I mean, I didn't have any insurance when I got hurt. They gave me like a prescription for some pain pills, that was it
Wish you
at
good
the
luck,
ER.
right?
Yeah. And I just, once I could put weight on it, I just did a bow stance, like, grass sparrow's tail rocking back and forth in a bow stance until it just healed.
Yeah.
And it's amazing the healing capabilities of this.
Yeah, that's what I'm doing at this point. At this point, I'm teaching 3 hours a day, and plus I have my own practice. And according to the physical therapist and the doctors, I'm healing a lot faster than they expected, but
Oh, heck yeah. Yeah, it's I mean it's brilliant. I mean, that's like when after my surgery, I could have been up and on my feet after 3 days,
yeah,
but I took the time, and they gave me this machine that it passively worked my leg out, so it would like basically, if I'm out like this, it would like bend it up like that. And so I would sit mat for like 8 hours a day. And it came out beautifully. About 3 months later, I'm able to go upstairs with no pain, and it's just getting stronger every day. Stronger than my other knee at this point.
well, that's cool.
Yeah, so I gotta go get this one finished, ripped all the way, so I can get it replaced. Well, I should probably get these dogs taken care of. They got into my pipe cleaners. I got pipe cleaners all over the floor now. And I think I'm gonna put up a channel just to have like these guys fighting on the mats, just a YouTube channel. As long as
Oh yeah, your stuff. You're on my Discord thing. Always feel free to post your things. If you want, I'll even give you your own channel so that you
because I
can.
don't want to like take over your thing. Cause I'll like, man, if I get on like a good run on a chat, I'll just like,
Yeah, yeah. So I'll put up a thing for you for the Tai Chi discussions.
Okay. Yeah, that'd be great.
And then I'll send you the link so you can go right there and you can post, and you can post all your stuff, because I think this is useful, because it's actually like I encourage my students to go to competitions, not to win, but to learn, I always say if you're there trying to win a medal, you're there for the wrong reason. It's the thing is that, like, if you go to a competition like in the Guoshu championships, right? The judges are required to take notes on your form. Say, and they're required after the competition, they're required to hand you their notes.
I like
You
that.
know,
Yeah,
so
that's pretty good.
so the thing is, and then there to be between divisions, most of the time your more experienced judges are happy to talk to you about whatever. So if you walk up to someone, and I always say this to my students, walk up to them and say, how can I improve my form? Don't ask them, why did you give me that score? You know, but so how can I improve my form? And they will almost always open up and give you lots of advice, and so the reason to be there is there's a couple of reasons. One is, like I even tell my students, I say, even if you don't go to compete, go to watch, because it gives you an idea of where inside of the Tai Chi world we fit, that you actually see that. I think one of the problems that people have with their Tai Chi schools is they go to their Tai Chi school and they have this very narrow vision of what Tai Chi is, and that that proper Tai Chi, that you must be holding your body, you must be holding your fingers, you must be exactly like I am. And that's not the case. You have a set of principles. If a person is moving by those principles, it's Tai Chi. And I tell this to my students. If you're moving by the principles and you're washing dishes, that's Tai Chi. If you're picking your nose and you're moving from your waist, it's, it's Tai Chi nose picking,
Well, yeah. Well, yeah, I definitely, I think that, if you look at, depending on how far back you put Tai Chi, like as far as for, how big you want to draw the circle, about like which activities are Tai Chi. But like, if you look at it as sort of, okay, yeah, there's the exercise of finding it like in your body. But if you look at it, the greater, sort of the study of Chi or energy, like being able to see energy, like wherever it is, like, is it like in a crowd of people? Is it, in some art, or just like being able to kind of see how like a little tweak here and there can change big things,
Yeah.
Is an interesting byproduct of it. And like what I'm trying to do here with this is, I think you talked about a little bit there too, is I want, like you're saying, for educating the students, but I want people that don't know about Tai Chi to get a better understanding of it, other than just like, okay, well, it's a bunch of old Chinese people waving their arms in the park,
Yeah.
And people that do Tai Chi to be able to see like the self-defense applications and
Yeah.
get a better understanding of that. Because it's just, there's so little, there's people, like there was a World Tai Chi and Qigong Day, right? It's a big thing. And
Yeah.
Dave's got a great, they've been doing that out there in Austin for years. It's great, huge. I think there was like 200 something people there last time I went to
Yeah.
it. And David set up a little.
You talking about Dave Pickens?
Dave Pickens, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
he set up a tent in the corner for doing push hands, and there was like, out of 200 and something people, there was 4 of us that showed up over there to play. And I'm
Yeah.
like, what's going on here? You guys doing what? I thought you wanted to do Tai Chi,
Yeah. Well,
And,
one of the things I tell my students about push hands, I get the same thing even with my students. Of I got a lot of students, and I've got 40, 50 students, and maybe a dozen do push hands. And it's like, I try to explain to my students that you can, while doing the form, convince yourself you're following the principles and think you're doing Tai Chi well. But when you do push hands, if you're not following the principles, you get pushed. You get pulled, you get pushed, you get your balance stolen, and so it is a direct feedback loop.
Right. I had to open the door for him. But yeah, that's exactly right. Is you can't really lie, deny. I mean, well, they do, like, oh, that was external, or oh, whatever. But it's either got it, or like, that's the other thing, Alex, that really respected about him, was that, like, he says, okay, if they do something wrong, right? If it's not Tai Chi, it's like, okay, we should be able to handle that, right? It's like, let them do what they want, and your Tai Chi should be able to handle it. It's
Well, that's the one thing I've said this also to my students is, lots of times at a push hands competition, it's not the better push hands player that wins. is that it may have been the better push hands player. Their Tai Chi wasn't good enough to deal with brute force yet. So you get somebody who comes in and wrestles, and while the person who is doing better push hands may have lost, that's okay, because that lets them know where they are as far as being able to deal with that brute force. It lets you know that, oh, I've got a ways to go, rather than thinking, well, that guy cheated. Well, yeah, but that's not the point.
Yeah.
What
is the point? The point's not to win. The point is to, invest in loss. And if you get pushed, to learn from that.
Yeah, exactly.
And I've seen that.
And if somebody's using brute force, the idea is, rather than being upset that they use brute force and won, think about how you can deal with that brute force next time. Discuss it with your Sifu, discuss it with your teacher, discuss it, this is what happened. How can I deal with that?
Yeah. And there's a good example, not to call anybody out, but like Shoreline, Chris Marshall, I talked to him last week. He had a open mat last week, right?
Yeah.
Tai Chi push hands open mat. And he filmed the whole thing. It was basically single elimination. You come up and you get single elimination, kind of king of the hill sort of deal. So you go up and you lose, you go off, and if you win 3 times in a row, you kind of go off and give up to the next guy. But I was watching that, and there was one guy on there, kind of a bigger guy, taller, and whenever he would go up with people, he would just kind of just bulldoze them, just kind of push right through them. And then he went up against Mike Graves, who I'd interviewed the week before that, and when he tried to do that to Mike knew how to deal with that, and so I think that the guy who was doing that he should be thankful for that opportunity. Because this thing he was doing that wasn't necessarily good Tai Chi, but was working for him in this game context, that he found that now good Tai Chi can actually defeat this.
Yeah.
And he got that lesson.
One of the things I do, and I say that when playing push hands, a good push hands teacher plays at the level of their student plus a little bit. Yeah. So one of the things I do lots of times when playing push hands with my students is I deliberately do things which put me in vulnerable positions. And what happens is, one is that way they don't become overwhelmed and say, well, I'll never beat him. So that gives them an opportunity to win once in a while and to see what of their things works and what doesn't. And the other thing is, it gives me a chance to practice, because I'm putting myself in positions that I wouldn't normally allow myself to be in. And so, maybe I end up bent over, slightly off balance. And how do I deal with that? And so there's a give and take, and it doesn't matter how advanced you are. It can become a learning experience. And
oh yeah, if you're done learning, I mean, what are you doing? What's your point? What is the point if you're done learning? Start teaching.
Well, I like, there was a Fuxiang Wen, Yang Cheng Fu's senior student. His last interview with Tai Chi magazine, right? And this was just before he died. They asked him what he thought he had learned from Tai Chi. He says, well, give me another 20 years, I might get it. So, and he had been doing Tai Chi he started when he was 6, and this was 91. So he'd been doing it for 85 years. And this is one of the things I love about the art form, is it's because you never feel like you've have got it all. There's always something more to learn. There's always, and it's not just about the Tai Chi, it's about yourself as well. It's,
When looking up, it's higher and higher, and looking down, it's deeper and deeper. Is the thing on it. But that was actually Ray. One of the things he told me early on. I was saying, oh yeah, I got this. Now what's next? Or something. He's like, well, his the way he put it was each of these things is like a ladder, and you climb up to the top of the ladder, and you think you're at the top of the ladder. Like, wait, hold on, it's like, what's that? Another rung? Hold on, and you get to the next ladder to go back up. And then it just keeps going on. That's actually something that my friend Jeff had said last week. He's like, oh yeah, learn a little Tai Chi and just do that little bit extra to get the self defense. Like, well, hold on a second there. That little bit extra is a lifetime of studies worth of material, really, to get in there. It's
I like to think of it as like an infinite onion. you never run out of layers. There's always something, I've often said this to my students is that's the advantage of Tai Chi, martial arts in general, but specifically Tai Chi, is that if you're doing aerobics, once you got the grapevine, what else is there? Whereas, in Tai Chi, specifically Tai Chi, there's always something to work on. There's always something to learn. There's always some way to improve your practice. You're going to be learning as long as you're practicing, it's that,
Yeah, there's always something to work on. Oh, wow. Well, I can't think of anything else to talk about now at this point. I think we pretty much covered it.
Well,
Yeah.
I had a wonderful time. Thank you very much.
Oh, thank you very much, sir. And, I'll try and get this together and up. And yeah, thank you very much for giving us a chance. And yeah, thank you.
Okay, great. Well, I love you. And I'll see you when I'm in Florida, or I don't know if you go to tournaments or not. Maybe I'll see you at a tournament,
Well, I am going to try and do ICMAC next year here in Orlando.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Nick Grayson's tournament.
I think so. I'm not sure. It's in the summer, usually in
Yeah,
June.
that's ICMAC is that's Nick Grayson, and not Nick Grayson. I mean Nick Screama. Nick Screama who runs that.
Okay.
I don't want to speak.
Yeah.
I think Nick Grayson. Nick Grayson is an old Tai Chi Wushu guy from way back. He's still around. He's sweetheart.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I'd like to try and do because Alex has developed the he took the long form and he made a simplified and an advanced form, and like simplified is up to the kicks, and then the advanced form is everything from kicks on.
Yeah.
And then he's got a not Heifa. I think it's Heifa. So it's like it's kind of mixing the concepts from the How form where it's gathering.
Yeah.
So it's like gathering from the How and then like Fa Zhen. So
Yeah.
I want to try and get that form ready for next year to compete at the
Yeah. Oh yeah, the Dong family and the Dong family style is because it was in Hong Kong. It had a lot of influence from the How style.
Yeah. Well, no, it's what's his name? Dong Yingji. He learned. He was a disciple of basically a third generation disciple of How style before he learned Qigong style. So
I was reading about that. I posted something sometime about the different versions of Yang style, and I posted a thing about Dong and
But it's really like the How. I started learning that. I'm still just kind of picking up little bits of it because I don't know. I follow along and I go to the form classes, but I'm just like really focusing on the simplified forms to kind of get that down, and the others are sort of more informational and kind of planting seeds for later, I guess.
Yeah.
What do you call it? Lazily tying coat, the beginning thing that's kind of like grass sparrow's tail.
Yeah.
Just got this feel to it where it just I can like feel like my bones are moving inside my meat. You know what I mean? And it's just like this kind of I didn't like looking at it from the outside. I'm like, it doesn't look like much, but then actually, doing it, like after doing the other stuff, maybe prep for it or something, but like actually doing it, just got like a completely different sort of feeling than. But like you're saying, like it just keeps like evolving over time. You look at it like, oh gosh, now I finally got it, and then 6 months from now, oh, and now I finally got it,
Yeah, that happens to me a lot. It's just like, wow, I finally got it. And, a week later, man, I don't have anything.
Yeah, right. It's just fascinating though. Oh, but I got a date tonight. I got to go get ready for my date. Oh, yeah, it's not a date. That's right. It's not a date, but it's a date.
Okay. Well, I love you. I'll talk to you later.
I love you too, man. Take care. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
You gotta get out the love you need with your chosen family. Sometimes you find yourself all alone with nothing in this world but your wits and your health. Sometimes you have to build your home and fill it with the love you need yourself. You gotta get the love you need with your chosen family. In this life, one thing is true.